The most profound moment in gaming history. Yeah, I'll look at this. I don't know what this is.
For the past 4 years on this channel, I have made videos on various topics, but by far the most popular form of video I have done centers on video game analysis. What I think made them so popular is that instead of being your usual video game review, I have focused primarily on narrative. Specifically, I have focused on what I believe are the best stories in the video game canon. For 20 odd years, video game narratives have been demonstrating a capacity to confuse, entice, and emotionally manipulate their audience in the most positive of ways.
Okay.
Most recently, in fact, I have been putting forth the argument that video game narratives have demonstrated such sufficient profundity that they sometimes have matched the greatest stories told in other mediums. To continue our collective...
I think video games can be really great stories. I mean, there's good examples of that. I thought Dark Souls had a great story, and, you know, Final Fantasy, a lot of people love that one. There's a lot of examples of this. Warcraft 3, yeah.
Celebration of our modern-day digital mythology, I would finally like to give full attention to a game which, I would argue, has the most profound moment in gaming history. I refer to the final codec conversation from Metal Gear Solid 2. While I have done several videos on Metal Gear Solid 2 in the past, I have never given full analytic attention to this specific moment. The main reason why is because somebody has already done so. My all-time favorite YouTube video is titled The Most Profound Moment in Gaming, MGS2 AI Conversation Analysis. Though it was released almost 9 years ago by its creator, Logo Steve, I pondered for a while how I might do a better job than he did. However, given our current cultural context, I believe I have a few other worthwhile things to contribute. The advent of subjects like fake news, the resurgence of rampant political correctness, and our tendency towards online tribalism has imbued this conversation with a much denser sense of meaning.
Bro, I love this picture. These like cute little birds, and one of them has a sign that says die. Oh man, this is great.
To those who consider themselves gamers but have never played a Metal Gear Solid game, you are obligated to at least listen to this final conversation. Not only will you be enlightened by its philosophical commentary, but you will be terrified by its implications, as I have been for my entire life.
That's exciting.
Raiden, are you receiving? We're still here.
How's that possible? The AI was destroyed.
Only GW.
Who are you?
To begin with, we're not what you'd call human.
You look lost.
Over the past 200 years, a kind of consciousness formed layer by layer in the crucible of the White House. It's not unlike the way life started in the oceans 4 billion years ago. The White House was our primordial soup, a base of evolution. We are formless. We are the very discipline and morality that Americans invoke so often. How can anyone hope to eliminate us? As long as this nation exists, so will we.
Up until the end of the game, the main character Raiden believed he was receiving orders from a man named Colonel Roy Campbell, a man who was also Solid Snake's commander throughout Metal Gear Solid 1. At the end of Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden learned that his colonel was in fact an artificial intelligence, manipulating Raiden to perform its political bidding. The bidding in question refers to the AI's desire to control the human race by controlling the spread of information via the press and the internet. But
that sounds pretty, I could see how something like that could happen. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could see about that. 2001. We also have to contextualize this. This is like, I mean, Serial Experiments Lane, like, explored something that's, like, kind of similar to this. And, like, didn't Lane come out in, like, 1998? Or, like, 99 or something like that? Yeah, Wabaka with the, I feel like, yeah, and like, there's no way, like, let's go ahead and just assume right now, like, Wubaka, thank you for 20 subs, thank you very much. Let's assume right now, there is no way Kojima did not watch Lane. Literally no possible outcome. Like, he 100% watched it.
we'll focus on that more in a moment. During the first part of this conversation, the audience learns how this AI...
What the point that I'm making is that there are a lot of other examples, like movies, things like war games, stuff like that, that came out around this same era that explored this same idea. Is that the idea of like AI, and at that point, people didn't really have a lot of technologically, like Matrix. Yeah, look at the Matrix. That's a great example. a lot of the people didn't really understand like what AI really could be or would be. So you had a lot of basically science fiction about it. And it's kind of weird that a lot of the science fiction ended up being true.
Came to be, and surprisingly, it is similar to the way human beings as a species came to be. Unlike the origin of human life in the oceans, the AI's quote-unquote life had its basis in American idealism, hence the AI's referencing of the White House as a symbol.
Okay.
In the mind of the AI, their purpose is to push forward American values, things like freedom, equality, and healthy competition. However, Ryden points out what should be an obvious contradiction in the AI's thought process, that the AI wants to take away those freedoms via censorship.
Cut the crap! If you're immortal, why would you take away individual freedoms and censor the net?
Jack, don't be silly.
Don't you know that our plans have your interests, not ours, in mind?
What?
Jack, listen carefully, like a good boy.
Not only are the AI
Wow. Damn, that is crazy.
about to argue for the ethics of controlling information, but they are going to do so in a very condescending manner. As we move on, I
Just
suggest
like Twitter.
that you, the listener, pay attention to how the AI demeans Ryden. Their pomposity is intrinsic to the effectiveness of their future
Of
argument.
course.
The mapping of the human genome was completed early this century. As a result, the evolutionary log of the human race lay open to us.
We started with genetic engineering, and in the end, we succeeded in digitizing life itself.
But there are things not covered by genetic information.
What do you mean?
Human memories, ideas, culture, history.
Genes don't contain any record of human history.
Is it something that should not be passed on? Should that information be left at the mercy of nature?
We've always kept records of our lives, through words, pictures, symbols, from tablets to books.
But not all the information was inherited by later generations. A small percentage of the whole was selected and processed, then passed on. Not unlike genes, really.
That's what history is, Jack.
What the AI is trying to do here is illustrate how genes function similar to how memes function. If genes are, quote, a unit of heredity which is transferred from a parent to offspring and is held to determine some characteristic of the offspring, then a meme is something like an ethic, a fact, or an opinion that later generations inherit. Like genes, memes are also subject to a process called natural selection. If certain organisms are
That's
better
so true, man. Like, I hate it whenever you have somebody that tries to make something that's not funny into a meme. Oh my god. Because they try to do it. They try so fucking hard. It's like it doesn't matter how many fucking reservations they put pandas on, they still don't want to eat and have sex. They just sit around and fucking die. That's natural selection, man. Apparently, I have heard that pandas are now on the come up again, though, which is, you know, after Mr. Pandaria. Oh, fuck.
adapted to their environment than others, then their genes are passed on to the next generation while others have the potential to die off.
Yeah.
Similarly, if certain memes seemingly hold enough meaning or logic, then supposedly they survive better than memes that do not.
Oh, there's a lot of memes that everybody knows. It's like also you have... The thing is, memes were not created by the internet. Memes were just like, they were coined on the internet and referred to as memes. Because memes got invented... fucking Richard Dawkins invented the word meme, and I think his book, it was in 1979, called The Selfish Gene. And, yeah, that, like, you remember, like, the fucking atheist guy? Well, anyway, yeah, The Selfish Gene, yeah, this is a way, way, way long time ago. And that's basically how he described what memes were, but people didn't really use the idea of memes until the internet came out. And anyway, memes are genes. Memes are, you can, like, I don't want to get into the metaphors of it, but point is that there are a lot of memes that happened before the internet. You know, things like, you know, putting the sunglasses on and being able to see, you know, the real truth and shit like that. Like the Matrix, like the red pill, like all that stuff. Like this was like kind of whenever the internet was coming out, but it was still used as a turn of phrase. And like many memes were created with like popular culture and like media and shit like that. Jumping the Shark, yeah, They Live, there you go. A lot of these. Even in like the 60s. Like, for example, like think of like all the memes that probably were happening in the 60s that people had in their mind of like Clockwork Orange. Or was it 70s? I forgot which one. But shit like that.
Distinguishes memes from genes is the nature of the selection process. Genes are more or less subject to the amoral discretion of nature, but memes can be analyzed and weeded out via moral discretion.
Yeah.
However, the AI will now illustrate how the natural selection of memes bears a unique problem in the internet age compared to the past few centuries.
But in the current digitized world, trivial information is accumulating every second, preserved in all its triteness.
That's tweets.
Never fading, always accessible.
Reddit
Rumors
posts.
about petty issues, misinterpretation, slander.
All of this junk data, preserved in an unfiltered state, growing at an alarming rate.
It will only slow down social progress, reduce the rate of evolution.
Prior to the internet age, information was curated. We read about the news in newspapers, watched the news on TV, and it was all funneled to us after passing through a, hopefully, professional body. Granted, there was a greater potential for curators such as journalists, editors, and academics to manipulate information to fit their various political biases, but at least there was some form of selection process going on. In the age of the internet, however, information is released so fast that it is impossible to control the discussion. Instead of listening exclusively to reporters, we are left to our own devices to derive what is valuable. Except, unlike the curators in the pre-digital age,
Which I think is a good thing. I think that the internet version of media is better than the previous version of media. I absolutely think so. And thank God for that.
the general population does not know how to separate the wheat from the chaff. We will focus on small, trivial issues like a celebrity's love life, rather than macro issues, such as the cumulative monetary debt of the Western
Well, because people don't know what that is. The people don't understand math. Like, it's not complicated. Yeah, they just don't understand math.
world. We will only listen to news sources that confirm our pre-existing political leanings and ignore any challenging voices. If it sounds like I'm engaging in apologetics for censorship, I am not. I would never censor information under any circumstances. But what does one do in respect to the destructive influence of human bias? The AI goes on to propose a solution.
Okay.
Right. You seem to think that our plan is one of censorship.
Are you telling me it's not?
You're being silly. What we propose to do is not to control content, but to create context.
Fact checkers.
Create context.
The AI argues that because they are not prone to human error and have inner CPUs with greater processing power than the human brain, they would know how to curate information and present it to the human race in a way that doesn't slow human evolution. Unlike your average political body, which might censor information that is inconvenient to their cause, the AI would simply present information in the most factual way possible so that political bias would not intervene, thus cooling political tensions across the political spectrum. Of course, if something like the AI censorship program came into place, ethical questions would arise regarding whether or not this compromises human freedom, specifically our quote-unquote free will. Ideally, human beings should have the autonomy to make their own decisions, no matter what mistakes may follow. In response, the AI argues
It's crazy, like, there's a bunch of 12-year-olds that played this game are probably like, yeah, okay, alright, what's the next mission? Like, okay, next, alright. Next mission, let's go. Yeah, I need next mission. Like, yeah, people had no idea what any of this shit was.
The problems that arise from that freedom supposedly necessitate censorship.
The digital society furthers human flaws and selectively rewards development of convenient half-truths.
That's true.
Just look at the strange juxtapositions of morality around you.
Billions spent on new weapons in order to humanely murder other humans.
Rights of criminals are given more respect than the privacy of their victims.
Although there are people suffering in poverty, huge donations are made to protect endangered species.
True.
Everyone grows up being told the same thing.
Be nice to other people.
But beat out the competition.
You're special. Believe in yourself and you will succeed.
But it's obvious from the start that only a few can succeed.
Oh, shit.
You exercise your right to freedom, and this is the result. All rhetoric to avoid conflict and protect each other from hurt.
Here, the AI illustrates the various ways in which human error corrupts truth. That human error arises from an instinctual drive to protect ourselves emotionally and physically, which truth tends to threaten. For instance, let's say a religious fundamentalist is confronted with various scientific truths that challenge their worldview. Let's say the fundamentalist...
Yeah, if that happens, they're lying. Again, like God put those dinosaur bones in the earth to test us. To test our faith, to make sure that we'd still believe the Bible, even whenever there's dinosaur bones in the earth. Yep, Satan put those dinosaurs in the earth to make us think that it's older than 6,000 years old. But you read the Bible, you know what it is.
Loses faith when confronted by those truths. What happens psychologically is that because the fundamentalist no longer has a belief system to make sense of the world, they are thrown into a mental pit of confusion and resentment. That loss of structure and certainty is so painful to the ideologue that it seems it would be better to avoid that feeling at all costs. This instinct is endemic to almost all human beings. This is why we separate ourselves into political tribes and won't consider the ethical implications of our positions. For instance, is it right to be pro-choice or pro-life? Instead of considering the validity of either side's argument, the pro-life crowd will chastise the pro-choice crowd as being on par with murderers, and the pro-choice crowd will chastise the pro-life crowd as being misogynist, religious zealots that want to control women. These low-resolution assumptions exacerbate tensions between political...
Well, here's the reason why all this stuff happens. It's because most of the people that are talking about it are fucking dumb. That's the reason why it happens. This is not like a super hard to understand thing. If you read what a lot of these people are talking about, they don't even know what they're talking about. And this happens all the time. Whenever there's a person that gets challenged on what they actually think, they're out there at some fucking convention and they're screaming and yelling, and you ask them, what do you think about this? How do you feel about it? And the more you ask them questions, the less they know. They're just dumb as fuck, man. People are stupid. The thing is, you've got to remember, it was not that long ago that all the boys were getting together. You know what they used to do? My dad told me about this. This apparently, was a little bit before his time. They would bring out even the families. This would be a family affair. And you know what it would be for? Lynching. That's right. Be a good old family affair. And then before that... Yep, hanging somebody, absolutely. And then before that, throwing witches in the water. Before that, the church was executing people. They set Joan of Arc on fire. It's because people are fucking stupid. That's the reason why all this stuff always happens. How is it that these things keep happening? Because people are fucking stupid.
Parties and can potentially...
Who's Joan of Arc? He's the guy, remember in Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah, that fucked his cousin? Yeah.
To violent conflict. Most people will avoid these difficult conversations to preserve order, but if you ignore them long enough, political positions become cemented, and people will kill each other before they admit that they're wrong about something. The AI then present a future where human bias corrupts the flow of information.
My opinion on all of this is a very, kind of a philosophical viewpoint, is that I don't even think that people really care about being right or not. They just care about winning. So, being right is only, it's an afterthought that makes you feel better about winning, but it doesn't really matter. People, at the end of the day, look at every animal. Why do animals kill each other? Because they want food. It was not the right thing to do for the lion to kill the gazelle. It's not the right thing to do for a lizard to eat a fly. It's just what they do. Because they want the food, that person is food, that thing is food, so they eat the food. That's it. Everything else outside of that is all a fucking intellectualization of that primal desire. That's what I think.
The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum.
Damn. damn, what the fuck? Kojima, what the fuck? God damn, this is 2001? Oh my god.
They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different
Truth
cardinal
social.
truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper.
Yup.
As we saw in the 20th century, whether it is with Hitler's fascism or Stalin and Mao's communism, the ideologically possessed would rather kill millions in the name of their ideology rather than consider the arguments of their political opponents. We see
I disagree on that completely. I think that the reason why Stalin and Mao killed all those people was because they put them in danger. You kill those people because those people disagree with you, and they serve to put you at risk. Yeah, that's why they went to go kill them. It had nothing to do with an ideology. The ideology is the intellectualization of the power struggle.
this type of attitude in its nascent stages in the digital age, whether it's calling everybody who disagrees with you a racist, sexist, homophobic Nazi, or a West-hating communist. This attitude is pervasive throughout social media, forums, and comment sections. This type of inflammatory language has further polarized our political climate and has resulted in violent clashes. In the mind of the AI,
by the way, this video was 3 years ago it was made. It's gotten even worse now. I've read studies and statistics about this.
This is due to the fact that we insulate ourselves by staying inside our little ponds and casting all outsiders and dissidents as bad people. If this continues to happen, who knows what violent, oppressive future might manifest? Unlike the reality of MGS2, where a supposedly benevolent AI can make the hard decisions for us, our reality might become a sort of Orwellian nightmare.
We talked about this forever. I mean, the reason why 1984 and Animal Farm are so popular is because there is like an element of truth in what they do. There's a very big element of truth in the way that they're formed, everything like that. Yeah, it's already. And I will say that there are some people that are mad about this video. I'll read some of these. People in the South equals racist, unpatriotic, and want to control women. This is going to be long or just boring. It's not boring for you. You're mad because you're disagreeing with this. You're not bored. You're mad. Lynching in the South, another fine search. We need to nuke the whole South. We found the idiot. Well, at least he's got an accurate name. Dark Bulb. There's no light on anywhere here. Absolutely right. Followed 37 minutes ago. What an idiot. Okay, let's see here.
The AI wants to prevent.
We're trying to stop that from happening.
It's our responsibility as rulers. Just as in genetics, unnecessary information and memory must be filtered out to stimulate the evolution of the species.
And you think you're qualified to decide what's necessary and not?
Absolutely. Who else could wade through the sea of garbage you people produce, retrieve valuable truths, and even interpret their meaning for later generations?
There it is.
That's what it means to create context.
I want to remind you all that Metal Gear Solid 2 came out in 2001. This game was warning us about the advent of fake news, misinformation, and half-truths roughly 2 decades before the issue captured our collective attention.
Wow.
Worse yet, not only do the AIs describe a potentially dystopian future for both our reality and the reality of the game, but they also make us inadvertently realize that we currently have no constructive solution to the problem. The only tactic available at the moment is for individuals to strengthen their moral compass and call out misinformation where possible. However, given humanity's inherent imperfection, even the best of us
The problem with misinformation is that misinformation is often referred to things are often referred to as misinformation whenever it is inconvenient. It's like, oh, well, this part is misinformation. Like, oh, this isn't really true. Or, oh, saying it this way or interpreting it this way is, oh, this is not really true. Yeah, I don't think so, guys. It's a buzzword. Yeah, it's 100%. It's a buzzword that makes people feel like they're justified to censor things.
prone to mistakes. Worse yet,
Yeah.
instead of bolstering the best among us despite their mistakes, we will feverishly exacerbate the mistakes of our opponents for political gain. We see this quite vividly in what has been aptly termed call-out culture. For instance, it is thanks to this culture that there is no host for the Oscars this year. It is thanks to this
Kevin Hart.
culture that people will be fired from their job over a tweet they made 10 years ago. A person
Yeah, well, the call-out culture and stuff like that, I think the real problem is not really call-out culture. The problem is doxing and people going after each other in real life. That's really what the issue is there. Because, like, calling out a tweet and saying that a tweet is bad is totally okay. It's the fact that people use the platforms to attack people in real life. That's where the issue is. So, like, in my opinion, I think anybody who promotes this kind of stuff or engages in this kind of stuff, this should just be like an auto ban. Like, there's no way, like, anytime that you try to, like, attack somebody in real life because of something they did online, I think this is a very bad thing.
might even be fired for a tweet that was taken out of context.
By attacking in real life, you mean physical or getting them fired? I think both. Yeah, I think that both. Like, it's just better for social media and it's better for everybody if people can't do that.
Text when said person did nothing wrong whatsoever.
Yeah.
Worst of all, it is thanks to this culture that we will elect politicians not based on their ethics or policies, but on how effectively they can punch the other side. And let me
Well, it's also the reason why I think people usually vote for politicians based off of how much they don't like the other side. That's it. Yo, Rex Strong, thanks for the 10,000 bits. I know you don't need this, but you've inspired so many small streamers like me that I just want to say thank you. Have a good stream. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm glad to help. Thank you very much. And I try to be, I don't know about inspiring. It's odd for me to hear that. It's kind of humbling in a bit. Thank you so much. Thank you. And yeah, hate voting. Exactly. That's what it is. If it's a game, Kojima didn't put this game just because he thought it was something he thought of. Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you watched this. Yeah, I mean, I think this is a big issue. I think the reason why people vote for other people is they like them, or the accessibility of their ideas is very, very easy to understand. That's why somebody like, I think that the problem, a lot of people were mad at Donald Trump, not because he called people Lion Ted, Crooked Hillary, and fucking Sloppy Steve. They didn't get mad at Donald Trump because he did that. I think the real reason why they were mad is because it worked. It fucking worked. He went there and he used these third grade insults, and he was calling people stupid, talking about how big his dick was on a national debate stage, and it worked. And that is a fucking reality check for a lot of people who don't think that that's what it really is. Because, yeah, it was entertaining. It was the truest truth out there. That's why it worked. How? Worked by making him the president. He won the election. He did not win the popular vote, keep in mind, but he did win the election. Yeah, so I think that's really what it is.
Emphasize, we have no solution to this problem. In the reality of Metal Gear Solid 2, however, a hypothetical solution is presented. Because people abuse the responsibility that comes along with freedom of speech and expression, and would rather attack people than their ideas, a system that controls information must be set up, supposedly for our own good. The AI go into more detail regarding this solution as the conversation goes on.
Well, we do have a system for that. It's called the law. The problem is whenever people think that they are beyond the law and they can enforce their own justice that extends beyond that.
However, that analysis
that's what happens whenever somebody goes out of their way to get somebody fired. And I know that some people might think, oh, well, it's good that people that are racist are getting fired. And it's like, yeah, I can see why you say that. But you have to keep in mind that, like, the only thing you have to do whenever you create a system to oppress people and to fucking shit on them and hurt them, the only thing you have to do for that system to be used on you is wait. Things always change. Things are always different than they were before. And the people that were in power will not be in power, and the people that are in power will not be in power in the future. That's what always happens. Don't open that door.
have to be saved for the second part of this video. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked this video and understand the importance of the message I'm trying to convey, please share it around. Also, I implore you to check out Logo Steve's original video, The Most Profound Moment in Gaming. 9 years later, it is still my favorite YouTube video of all time, and I think you will get a lot of value out of it. If you want to see my other Metal Gear related content, please click on one of the videos you see on screen now.
This is so good.
And hey, if you like that, maybe consider subscribing.
It is lit. You see here? I'm gonna link it for you guys. Part 2? Is there a part 2? Okay, alright, we can watch the part 2 for it. Yeah, please give this guy a sub, give him a like. This is such a well-designed video. I think that, again, it's so it is incredible, and at the same time, it is not quite as insane as you might imagine, because back in, like, the early 2000s, again, there was so much popular media and social media. Not social media the way that we know it, but social media discussing the idea and the implications of, like, what really is AI, what is, like, the information age where people can just, like, go on the internet and say whatever they want. Like, it was very popular, whether it's Serial Experiments Lane, The Matrix, fucking, like, I think those are the two of them that just pop right into my head that explore that idea. And then also you had things like, you know, like Logan's Run, things like Clockwork Orange that had happened before then, Blade Runner, let's see, Soylent Green. A lot of these movies all kind of explore different shades of the same idea. Terminator, 12 Monkeys, Bruce Willis going back in time. Kind of, yeah, I think so. Minority Report, yeah, but that was like way later. I'm talking about things that happened in the 2000s. Ghost in the Shell, yeah, that's why I said Ghost in the Shell is probably my favorite anime. I used to watch that all the time, every day it came out. Let's see, back over here, Dystopian Society movies. Yeah, there you go. And there's a great video game adaptation of I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream. Truman Show? No, different. All right, we'll watch the second part of it. This is really good. I like this.
Before we continue, allow me to summarize the main arguments from part 1. The Patriot AI argues that in the internet age, the flow of information has become far too complex and grandiose. The natural outcome of this overabundance of information is that human beings, on account of their natural fallibility, are unable to separate factual and valuable information from information that is at best incomplete and at worst, filled with outright lies. On account of our...
It is so funny that this literally fucking happened. Yeah, this actually happened on Twitter.
Tribal instincts, our political biases, our emotional fragility, and flawed intellect, we will potentially embrace information that conforms to our worldview best, rather than information that is true. In the era of fake news, this has undoubtedly been demonstrated as fact, as we build up echo chambers that confirm our political leanings and demonize those who express dissent. In response to the inherent truth of this argument, the AIs propose a frightening solution. Create a system that controls human will and consciousness. A system that compromises a human being's quote-unquote free will to come to their own conclusions. Though such a system is repulsive to myself and hopefully many of you, the AIs will demonstrate how human beings might abuse their freedom so much that such a system might be inevitable. Worse yet...
It's so exciting. I love this stuff because I feel like we are going to have the craziest next 30 years probably than ever before. It will be the most ridiculous shit that's going to happen.
Yet, they demonstrate how easily a system can be implemented
so fun.
Without protest, as the main character Raiden so clearly proves.
I'll decide for myself what to believe and what to pass on.
But is that even your own idea?
Or something Snake told you?
That's the proof of your incompetence right there. You lack the qualifications to exercise free will.
Never in my life have I heard an insult as cutting and condescending. Put aside just for a second whether or not quote-unquote free will is a valid concept. To say that somebody lacks the qualifications to exercise free will suggests that their personality is entirely constructed by outside forces. For example, if you believe that abortion is an unethical practice, or an ethical practice. Did you come to that conclusion yourself? Did you put together a bunch of arguments from opposing sides and decide for yourself what the...
No, you just read the headline where it says abortion's bad, and then, you know, it was written by your favorite multi-billion-dollar corporation, so, I mean, they'd never do you wrong. I mean, shit. I mean, of course they're right. How do you think they made all that money? I mean, I mean, it's just that simple, guys.
best answer was? Or did you hear one person's argument and close yourself off to opposing arguments, much like an ideologue tends to do? In regards to Raiden, the AI goes on to demonstrate that he, like billions of people on the planet, tend to embrace ideas and actions not necessarily based on their adherence to truth, but rather based on how effectively they promote a certain way of being. This goes back to Nietzsche's famous...
I think a lot of people just have a viewpoint that is, it is just reinforcing their life. Like, that's it. A lot of people that are rich think that they are rich because they deserve it. A lot of people that are poor who think that they're poor because the system's out to get them. Why? Because it makes them feel better about where they're at. It's just that simple.
Criticism of philosophers in Beyond Good and Evil. While philosophers might proclaim a desire for objective truth, they are more than likely trying to justify their worldview and way of life. This is why fake news exists. This is why echo chambers crop up all over the internet.
I usually am not a big fan of that type of argumentation, because I feel like this is like onion argumentation, where like you can always find more layers to it. And it can also be applied to even the person who is applying the logic themselves. So it's like you're going into these like meta levels of biases without actually engaging in the ideas.
Despite the wealth of information available to us that should allow us to live in accordance with truth. Yeah. It is because living in accordance with truth and developing a sense of free will can be life-threatening. So people choose to embrace falsehoods in order to protect their sanity. Raiden then desperately protests that he is not a product of the mindless masses.
That's not true. I have the right.
Does something like a self exist inside of you?
That which you call self serves as nothing more than a mask to cover your own being.
In this era of ready-made truths, self is just something used to preserve those positive emotions that you occasionally feel.
Another possibility is that self is a concept you conveniently borrowed under the logic that would endow you with some sense of strength.
That's crap!
Is it? Would you prefer that someone else tell you? All right then. Explain it to him.
Jack, you're simply the best. And you got there all by yourself.
Yep, there you go.
Up until this point in the game, Raiden and the player believed that their successes were achieved entirely by their own merit. However, the AI revealed that the entire mission was structured in a way so that Raiden would succeed as long as he obeyed orders. For Raiden to find out that he was not in fact a legendary mercenary, but rather a clueless puppet that helped enslave the world, is bad enough. However, it is when the AI offers the more ideal fiction to Raiden that he is simply the best, that the insult has its greatest effect. Raiden cringes and holds back a scream because he sees the truth inherent in the AI's argument. That argument being that Raiden is not his own person. His actions and emotions are all controlled by a higher power. He's not Raiden. He's not even Jack. He's something else's creation. The AI then go on to show how Raiden's lack of self is endemic to billions of people.
Oh, what happened?
I think this is something that's generally true with a lot of things. Like, for example, again, you have a lot of people that are rich who think that it's because they worked really hard. People that are poor think it's because they're lucky. Like, that's just what happens. And this is like the eternal struggle of people trying to justify what they have. And I think this is a huge problem that people have. This is, I think, a big issue that, like, people have to find a way to justify why they are in a place they are. Elon was not lucky. What I think people don't understand with the word lucky is that lucky is not something that just refers to somebody's, the consequences that they have at birth, things that are obvious. I think there's a lot of other things that, like, you never really think about. Like, you have spawn RNG. If you're born in Nigeria, you've got a worse chance at things than if you're born in, like, let's say Switzerland. Okay, like, that's just the way things go. If you're born in China, you're probably going to have a much harder time being able to express yourself and be a political activist than if you're born in Portland, Oregon. That's the way things go. Also, like, there are people, like, I think that in general, there are different dispositions that people have. Some people are better at reading than others. Some people are better at math than others. They're just brain thinks and works a different way. So whenever you narrow down somebody's advantages to, like, oh, their parents or something like that, I think this is a very narrow way of looking at it. Because, like, for example, I got very lucky with a lot of things. Like, for example, you know, I'm not massively overweight. I'm not sick. My parents were both, you know, college educated. I'm relatively decent at talking. All of these things are not things that every single other person has access to. They're things that I have access to because I seem to get lucky. Also, I got the internet very early on. I was on the internet very, very early on. These are all things that made me lucky. There's a billion people in the world right now that don't have the internet. Every single one of you guys is luckier than they are. But there's always a conversation of, like, how much of somebody's success or how much of who they are is actually them, and how much of who they are is actually the reflection of something else. You see what I'm saying?
Do you feel lost? Why not try a bit of soul searching?
Don't think you'll find anything, though.
Ironic that although self is something that you yourself fashion, every time something goes wrong, you turn around and place the blame on something else.
It's not my fault. It's not your fault.
It is what it is.
You simply resort to looking for another, more convenient truth in order to make yourself feel better.
Leaving.
This is, yeah, that's why I said, like, this is what I thought with the fucking all that Kanye West shit. Like, oh, it's the Jews. Oh, it's the Jews. The Jews are doing this. Because it's very easy to go and blame another group of people because, you know, your life isn't in a good position. It's so dumb.
Behind in an instant the so-called truth you once embraced.
Once again, the AI demonstrate how people will gravitate to quote-unquote truths, not because they are based entirely on empirical fact, but because they satisfy the instinctual need for structure and stability. For argument's sake, let's imagine somebody who has spent half their life advocating a belief that the Earth was flat, that the government wants people to believe it is round for territorial reasons.
Yes.
Let's say the flat earther is presented conclusive information that proves the Earth is round. If they accept that they were wrong, that would mean they spent over half their life advocating falsehoods and manipulating impressionable minds.
That's right.
What toll would that realization take upon their soul? If they don't accept that they were wrong, they will accept a more convenient truth to protect their emotional persona. Such a truth might be that the evidence presented to them was doctored, and that the person presenting the information is a government shill. This behavior extends not just to conspiracy.
Yeah, it's actually the government wants you to think that it's flat, but it's actually round because they actually have a space base on the moon that controls your brain. But they want you to think it's flat so you don't think the moon is real. Yeah, there's, like, again, more layers to this.
Conspiracy theorists, but anybody with a political position. This is the reason why millions of people continue to advocate for political systems despite their proven track record of killing millions of people. This is why people still uphold certain...
I would argue that every political system kills millions of people because the political system doesn't kill millions of people. People kill millions of people. They've done it for all of history. People have killed millions of people.
Superstitious beliefs despite their scientific invalidity. This behavior is not relegated to a few irrational individuals. It's something that everybody does, regardless of their political position. I do it, and you do it. And worst of all, in a democracy, the emotionally fragile have a say in what is truth, which the AI shall now criticize.
Oh, this is absolutely true. Yeah, people that get upset about something or offended over something, and now everybody has to walk around with fucking padded rooms or padded suits around them because we don't want to accidentally offend them. No, I think that the problem really is that too many people in the world live their life like, the biggest fear that they have is shame or guilt. Like, that's what they're really afraid of, is getting embarrassed or being shamed or feeling guilt for doing something bad. And I think that's why people hold on to stupid ideas, is that it makes them feel guilty or shame or something like that. That's one of the worst things. I think that's how people control themselves. It's not because they have, like, it's not an emotional thing. It's that they don't want to feel shame or guilt. Because if you don't feel those things, it doesn't matter to you. It's fine.
Should someone like that be able to decide what is truth?
Should someone like you even have the right to decide?
You've done nothing but abuse your freedom.
You don't deserve to be free.
We're not the ones smothering the world. You are.
Because the AIs grew out of the White House's quote-unquote primordial soup, they recognize the inherent value of freedom and the responsibility that comes along with it. In their mind, Raiden and billions like him take all the benefits of freedom without accepting any of the responsibility that comes along with it. Instead of using their freedom to seek out
That's
truth...
like people that go around, they eat a bunch of food, they're 600 pounds, and then they die. Yep. You can do that. Wouldn't recommend it, but you could do that. Yeah, I mean, no, there's plenty of people that do that. It's the same with people that do drugs and shit like that. They get really into, like, they drink alcohol, they become alcoholics, shit like this. It's the way it goes. Absolutely. People don't know what to do whenever they have decisions. Whenever they can choose to do something good or bad, they'll just do something bad.
That foster the human race, they resort to partisanship and ideology to make sense of the world. Instead of being introspective and considering the potential faults in one's position, they will cast the blame elsewhere. The result of this is stagnation, and soon afterwards, violence. This extends not just to our leaders, but to ourselves.
The individual is supposed to be weak, but far from powerless. A single person has the potential to ruin the world.
And the age of digitized communication has given even more power to the individual. Too much power for an immature species.
Building a legacy involves figuring out what is wanted and what needs to be done for that goal. All this you used to struggle with. Now we think for you.
That's
We
nice.
are your guardians, after all.
You want to control human thought? Human behavior?
Of course. Anything can be quantified nowadays.
At this juncture, I feel the need to repeat something I said in the first video.
That's
I am
so
not
good.
for censorship or controlling information whatsoever. I think the ultimate conclusion that the AIs come to is wrong. Even if they were right, I am certainly not giving up the ability to control my own life and make my own decisions. But put aside their conclusion and consider whether or not their arguments are wrong. Do human beings consume fake news and accept it as truth? Do billions of people hold beliefs that are objectively wrong? Can ideologues and fundamentalists negatively influence our societies? If the 20th century...
I love how, like, you know what a really great example of this is astrology. There are so many people who unironically believe in astrology. I can't even I can't even believe that they believe in it. But they're out there, like, oh my God. And it's like, in my opinion, if you believe something that has no evidence, and there's no like fucking proof of this, it's not, you know, quantifiable through the scientific method, nobody should be under any obligation to respect it at all. Absolutely not. It's fucking stupid.
Is any indication, it only takes one bad idea, and maybe even one bad person to ruin the world. In the social media age, this ruination becomes all the more likely, as almost anybody can build up a large enough following to influence millions of minds. They don't even need a large following. They could just covertly produce a system like the one the AIs are proposing. And when AI inevitably comes to be, maybe our reality could see its reflection in the reality of Metal Gear Solid 2. For the sake of time and brevity, I will skip over the next few minutes of this conversation. They are basically a retread of what has already been discussed. Before I play the final clip, I wish to summarize what the AI accomplished. They created a scenario where Raiden, and by extension the player, had to obey several different orders from their commanding officer. It did not matter if many of those orders seemed unjustifiable. What mattered to Raiden and the gamer was being able to live out a fantasy as a legendary mercenary. That emotional desire was so strong that it prevented any form of rationality. This emotional desire overcoming rationality is reflective of many different situations in our everyday lives. We see it in our newsfeed.
I actually think this is something that's true with video games in themselves. I think that this is like a meta level, because the individual player, like, there's a lot of people that get satisfaction out of beating video games. I used to get a lot of satisfaction out of beating video games. Now I don't anymore. It's good that I did it. Like, yeah, it's good. But every video game is programmed to lose. The game is programmed for you to beat it. And whenever you beat somebody in a game, or you beat the game, you were programmed to win. Like, that's it. So it's sad when that feeling goes. It's not sad because what it means is that there's a, like, let me think of a way to put it. Like, you don't have your identity built up based off of your success in things that were programmed for you to succeed in. I think this is a very weak identity.
On our social media, and even in our own actions. Unlike human beings, AI are not prone to emotion. For this reason, the AIs feel they are the saviors of humankind. They will control thought so human beings may live in blissful ignorance, and the AIs no longer have to tolerate mass stupidity. In their victory, the AI mocks Raiden for his various faults.
So you see, you're a perfect representative of the masses we need to protect. This is why we chose you. You accepted the fiction we've provided, obeyed our orders, and did everything you were told to. The exercise is a resounding success.
Didn't I tell you that GW is still incomplete? But not anymore, thanks to you.
Your persona, experiences, triumphs, and defeats are nothing but byproducts. The real objective was ensuring that we could generate and manipulate them. It's taken a lot
Again, you can apply this exact same language to the video game itself. I think that's what's really cool about this too.
of time and money, but it was well worth it considering the results.
Yeah, think about that.
Is this our
Very meta.
future? If we have no systemic solution to the problem of fake news, and we continue to drown in overflowing information, what will our society become? This video game, not a book, not a movie, a video game, so eloquently explained the impossibility of this problem roughly 2 decades before it reached public consciousness. The fact that it was all done within this 15-minute conversation makes it truly the most profound moment in gaming history. It is a moment that has haunted me for decades, specifically because of how it makes a pessimistic future seem so certain. I figured that any solution, no matter how ineffective it may seem, would be better than to let Kojima's nightmare come to pass. As I briefly referenced in the first video, there is one thing that can be done. We must rediscover the power that an individual holds. If a single person has the potential to ruin the world, a single person has the potential to save it. I hold no delusions of grandeur for myself, but I know that there is strength in numbers. If enough people wake up to the complex problem of misinformation, half-truths, and fake news, and do everything in their power to live in accordance with fact rather than tribalistic instinct, we will
Never gonna happen.
most certainly survive. But even better than that, we will be able to preserve our freedom for the coming generations. The power is in your hands.
Yep, not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not a chance. Ooh, not a chance. I gotta go ahead and link to you guys this video. This is such a good video. I love it, man. It is so well done. It's so well put together. And I think it's like, I love watching videos like this because I think that they are genuinely interesting. Yeah, these are so good. We're fucked. No, people have lost their fucking minds, man. With like the internet, COVID, like now everybody's at home. They're constantly like getting bombarded with news that are making them angry. They're getting mad at everybody. The planet's becoming more uninhabitable. Yeah, you're right. Corporations are just making more and more money. The wealth inequality is growing more and more. And the only thing that they can think about is like football or like this like wedge social issue that's being, pushed at them to keep them focused on it so they're misdirected from actual problems. This is what happens. And it will never change because people are animals and animals are fucking stupid. Like, that's just the truth. Like, that's just happening. It's always going to be like this. And whenever the people get up and there's a big problem and all the people are mad, what do the rich people do? Well, they pay half of the stupid people to kill the other half of the stupid people, and then the problem's solved. Yeah, it's happened many times. That's the way it goes. Yeah, you just pay half of the stupid people because the other half, a problem solved. Yeah, and then you have the remaining ones, and then you just fucking deal with them, and then it's done. Can we eventually change if we try? No. I don't think so. I think that there is a limit. So think about it like this, right? So this is how I see things. And I'm going to do this, and I want to watch that Nixium video, and then after that, I think we'll actually just play some games, because I want to get that dungeon achievement thing done. Give me 1 second before I do this, though. So basically, look at this as, for example, this is the amount of, I guess, like, okay, I'm going to make 2 of these, and I hope you guys can see kind of where I'm coming from. This right here, and I'm going to make a bunch of different colors here. And okay. So this right here is the wavelengths of like seeable colors, right? Like how many colors can a person see with their eyes, right? This is how many colors that an average individual can see with their eyes. You see what I'm saying, right? This is the visible light spectrum, and then there are some people, it's like 1% of like people can see like slightly more, and usually it's more often in like women. So we'll have this little tiny one be pink, right? But that's all it is. All of this other stuff, everything here, you can't see any of this. It doesn't matter how hard you try. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter like how much you train your eyes. It doesn't matter how much you read about it, talk about it, think about it. There's nothing that you can do that's going to make you see right here, right here, right here, or right here. And I think the same thing is true with IQ. I think the truth is that in order to reach a place of actual like enlightenment and to understand how like existence exists, we have to be here, but the spectrum of human IQs is only right here. I think that we are actually too stupid to ever do it. I don't think nobody will ever pierce the veil of existence with a 140 or a 180 IQ. That's what I think the truth is. And it doesn't matter how hard you try, how much you explain it to people, or anything like that. It will just never happen unless we somehow evolved. Yeah, can you use AI for it? And that is the question, right? Right? That's the question. Because it's basically like a normal human IQ is from 50 to 200, somewhere around there, with like a few exceptions, like people that have like mental disorders, and then people that are like really smart, but there's only like, a small handful on each side. So, yeah, singularity, raise the level of human consciousness. And that is something that's very interesting. I don't really know if that'll ever happen. I think that it will, though. I'm not sure exactly what form it will take. And seen the movie Lucy? No, I haven't. Because we're able to detect and explore all those other light frequencies, so the other region of IQ should be accessible in some way. I think that it will be accessible in some way, in the same way that the other light frequencies will be accessible in some way. But we can't see what those lights are. Just because we can detect that they exist, it's the same as like you can say that I think that there is a world where everybody is happy and there are no problems. Just because you can say that, and you can detect that it could exist, doesn't mean that you can create it just because you can detect it. So yeah, I understand like what you're trying to say, but I don't think that's true. Lucy's about unlocking potential in the mind. What can happen? Pretty cool movie. Yeah, I'm not sure yet. Transhumanism. Yes, I think this is you will need transhumanism to actually reach any sort of point there. But obviously that is, full of its own problems. That's the problem. We try and use AI. Since we're stupid, it will scare and frighten us, so we'll kill it or it will kill us. The gray area in between is highly unlikely. Yeah, I think that's true too. Am I religious or spiritual at all? Well, here's what I really think. I think that I am a hyper-intelligent monkey that has no understanding of the universe or the way that it functions, and my understanding of it is comparable to a dog. I'm not even remotely close.